Hi everybody, Reggie here, and we're doing something a little different today. This interview is not going to be clips or edits, but a real conversation with the owner of this channel, Joseph March!
Hi Reggie, it's an honor.
Before we get into the meat of this conversation, I was just wondering if you could describe yourself.
I describe myself as a slightly overweight, middle-aged, balding edgelord wannabe.
Can't argue with that.
Sounds like the love child of the entire internet.
Pretty much.
Well, what I was meaning is, can you describe who you are, what you do, something like that?
Oh, I'm Joseph March. My friends call me Joe. I'm a bit eccentric. I work in IT. I have a wife and a son. I created my own tabletop role-playing game called Realms of the Ancients. And for some reason, I like doing cringy stuff on YouTube.
But that's not what you used to do on YouTube.
Right, my original channel was related to the occult, New Age magic, psychology, philosophy, things like that. And in fact, that's where the original ideas for the characters from this channel came from.
Characters? What do you mean, characters?
It's not important.
Right, well, many people have asked about the end of your previous channel and are curious why you abandoned your magic practices. In fact, it's the reason that we're having this entire interview. Not sure whose idea it was to answer a serious question like this in such an informal setting.
Well, whoever it is sounds like a nut to me.
Well, I think it's a great idea.
Okay, so as my friend Frederick Xavier would say, let's get into it. Can you describe your old channel for those who may not know it?
My old channel was devoted to teaching modern-day occultism and magic, and then it eventually turned into just watching my journey through that path, through those practices. The short, easy version of explaining what basically I was trying to get across in that channel was that magic is really just the old world version of psychology, and that alchemy is sort of spirituality merged with physics and chemistry, or at least what would later become physics and chemistry today. So the idea that instead of looking at these as some kind of woo-woo words, these are kind of the origins of the sciences of nowadays, was a big part of the channel, as was practicing some of the old ways and seeing if they still had value today.
Yeah, but there was a large period of time where you literally believed you could talk to demons and old gods. You even had a video where you became possessed by a giant serpent named Tiamat.
Yes, and I did believe that at the time, but I've since come to understand the extreme power of influence that self-hypnosis has on the individual.
How so?
Well, anyone who practices magic knows a big part of it is entering a trance state of one kind or another. This is a self-hypnotic state. And what this is good for is allowing you to implant suggestions into your own mind, specifically into the unconscious mind. For example, if you're afraid of heights, you can implant a suggestion into your own mind to be comfortable in high places.
Yeah?
What's less recognized by those who practice is that anything you do in the trance state influences your unconscious mind and affects your beliefs and interactions with reality. As a result, if someone enters trance with the intention of seeing and hearing demons enough times, then they'll start seeing and hearing demons because they want to. This is because the unconscious has accepted your commands to construct these hallucination-like encounters. In a sense, if you want something bad enough and you ask for it repeatedly in trance, your mind will create delusions, and this will allow you to experience whatever you asked for.
How can you be sure?
Near the end of my journey, just before I left the channel, I was clued into this truth, along with several others, by events that were going on in my life. I started conducting experiments to test the theory, to see if I could reproduce my experiences with entities on purpose, and those experiments succeeded, proving to me that most, if not all, of my supernatural experiences had been delusions that I had created for myself. That realization broke me. I had to reanalyze everything I believed in, and that led me to more closely analyze my beliefs in magic as a whole, including spells, astral travel, the ability to affect outcomes. What I discovered was a lot of instances where I was playing up the times where things worked and ignoring the times when things didn't. In short, because I wanted to believe in magic, my mind made me blind to any proof against it. Once I removed trance state from the work, all these things faded. Without self-hypnosis, there was no magic.
So now you don't practice anything from the occult at all?
To say that, I think, would be incorrect. I don't consider anything I practice now to be magic, but I still practice what almost every magical tradition has at its foundations. Practices like affirmations, accepting challenges, mindful meditations, even dream work are still commonplace for me. But all of these have modern-day psychological names and don't need to be covered in these occult overtones. I'm a big proponent of individuation, for example, and I don't regret my time in the occult. Before it, I was a scared person who was kind of a slave to their habits, and after, I'm a successful individual who's learned to focus on the positive and accept challenges head on. I'm proud of who I've become.
So, if it wasn't for magic and the occult, do you think you'd be worse off?
It's hard to say. Did I grow and change the way I did because of the practices I undertook? Or was that the way I was going to grow and change anyway? I don't know. What I can say is, I don't make any attempt to dissuade people who are practicing the occult now. I think the world is full of people with very different beliefs from one another, and I think that's a cool thing and a great thing. It's what makes the world an enriching place to be in. You don't have to do what I do or believe what I believe, and I don't have to do what you do or believe what you believe. We can just both enjoy each other's perspectives on things, and I love that.
What about God? You used to believe in the all. Have you given up on that too?
As shocking as it may sound, I do consider myself an atheist now, though it may be more correct to call me an agnostic. I don't believe any of us can know if there is a God. I don't claim to know that there isn't one. I've just come to accept that I've seen no proof for one, and if others believe, that doesn't bother me at all.
What made you change your belief in God?
Two things. One is that I now practice a different way of looking at reality. I'm careful now not to let myself just believe something because I want to believe it. I have to scrutinize my beliefs to find the flaws in my own thinking. The other is that around the same time I learned that magic practices were more or less calling upon delusions to alter the mind, I also came to realize synchronicity wasn't real.
What is synchronicity anyway?
Synchronicity is the belief that things that are happening to you are guiding you, like a sign, or happening to you for a reason outside of simple cause and effect reasoning. I used to believe in this heavily, but when I started stripping away all the beliefs I wanted to believe from those that I had proof of, I started to see that one can suppose synchronicity from random events easily, because humans are natural pattern makers. I did some experiments that I'm not too proud of with several people I know online. I fed them information I thought they might want to hear at times that seemed valid, and they immediately claimed synchronicity. Through this, I was able to bring them to conclusions that I wanted them to have, kind of guiding them, almost controlling their actions through manipulating this belief in synchronicity. Once I saw this, synchronicities just stopped happening to me. I recognized what I thought was synchronicity was me finding and acting upon opportunities and nothing more, and it was just active engagement in the world that I was involved in, not some otherworldly being, not some all, not some God moving me into places where I needed to be. Synchronicity had been the reason I believed in God. Without it, I had to ask myself, do I believe in this because it's logical or just because I want to believe in an afterlife, in God, and those sorts of things? Now I'm an atheist, so you know how that thought experiment ended.
Damn, so you lost your belief in God, magic, and entities all at once. No wonder you freaked out and ended your YouTube channel.
It was actually even more than that. I was helping out people on the side who wanted help with their magic practices, and I kept finding that people who didn't do the early practices, the fundamentals of magic, such as a practice of positive thinking, taking a moment for yourself, performing affirmations, things like that, were unable to get any of their magic to work. For a long time, I had thought this was just because they needed the foundations first. It was kind of like one builds on top of the other. But the more that I learned from them and others that I worked with, the more I saw the foundations were really the only thing that had a major positive impact in my life. I'd not gained success because of spells. I had because of the more successful behaviors that I had taken on as a result of the foundation and fundamentals that most of these practices, most of these paths have you do at the start. I tried to help some people after this to look at it a different way, to see, okay, if we can take the magic part out and just practice these fundamentals, will they get the same kind of help I did? But most people that I interacted with didn't want to do that. They had no interest in changing their perspective or making a change in their own points of view in order to change their life or in order to look for opportunities, things like that. They wanted a quick fix through magic. And as a result, I got really annoyed with the fact that anybody who came to me for help, and it wasn't anybody, but a large number of people who came to me for help were not willing to take the help. They weren't willing to do the work for themselves to help themselves, so to speak. And so that was a big part of what angered me at the end, and I think that came across in the end in my final video whenever I said, you can't help those who don't want to be helped.
So why not tell everyone this on your channel?
That was my deepest regret about leaving the channel, is that I never really properly closed the door on all of it. That said, it's taken me this past year and a half to really find my footing and figure out who I am and what I believe now, so I'm not sure that I really could have expressed all this very well back then.
Well, what's your path now?
Now I consider myself an existentialist. I had a large bout of nihilism for a while after this change, but I've come through that. The main difference between a nihilist and an existentialist is that the existentialist accepts the futility of all and then decides, fuck it, I'm going to find my own meaning in all this.
And how are you doing?
Oh, better than ever before. I feel freer than I ever was, and all of the positive changes that I had as a result of the old practices stayed, so I'm still a much better person in a better off space as a result of everything I went through, especially all of the work I went through facing my repressed memories that anyone who did watch the old channel will recall.
Well, that pretty much explains that. But this interview hasn't been funny enough to be a real Reggie interview, so let's make it funny now!
Okay, how do you want me to do that?
It's your channel, asshole. You figure it out.
Well, I've been watching Carnival Row lately. I watch Amazon Prime shows on my phone when I'm at the gym, and because I can download them and then I don't have to use Wi-Fi. But I quickly learned while watching Carnival Row in a public area that it can be a little embarrassing or risky. At any moment, someone can look over your shoulder and it looks like you're looking at pixie porn.
Embarrassing and cringy. Just like you.
Thanks.
Well, we've got time for one more question, so here it is. Kiss, marry, kill. Reggie, PP Sorcerer, or PP Conspiracy Theorist?
Well, luckily I'm pansexual, so I don't have a problem with these choices. I'd say kiss Reggie to turn him back into a prince, kill PP Sorcerer because you can always revive him, and then marry PP Conspiracy Theorist because his voice is smooth as silk.
Gross. Well, that's all the time we have today. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, and a quick shout out to purchase my tabletop role-playing game, Realms of the Ancients. Links in the description.
Okay, Echoed, good night.
This is the way it always goes. This is the way you've always known. This is the way you all are shown. This is the way your mind is blown. This is the thing you've never seen. This is the thing that's in between. This is the thing that's in all things. This is the way you fucking sing. This is the way it always goes. This is the way you've always known. This is the way you all are shown. This is the way your mind is blown.